We are live. Hi, everybody. It's Terry Wilderman with Intuitive Leadership doing the daily inward journey with Terry. It's really cool to be here today because one of the things I'm going to do is share with you my story, my inward journey, as to how I came about really tapping into my intuition and owning it. One of the things about my intuition is it is very, very strong, but it took a long time for me to acknowledge it and to get there. And why is it important for those of us who are entrepreneurs? Why is it important for those of us who are leaders to listen to those intuitive hits? It's incredibly important to do that because when we don't, and how many of you here who are listening, how many of you have not listened to your intuition and lived to regret it? It happens to a lot of us. We don't want to own our intuition because we're scared of it. Sometimes we are so scared to be powerful, really, really powerful, that it can be very overwhelming. And that's pretty much what happened with me. So when I was growing up, I was raised a Catholic. My parents were Cuban immigrants, very, very Catholic, on and on and on. And it was one of those, you do what you do, with what you grow up. And I remember I would be getting insight, little things, but I was scared to say anything to my mom and dad. There was one time that my sister had an argument with the girl next door. And we were very young. It was under the age of 12. And I sat there talking with the girl next door and talking about what happened, on and on. And suddenly I remember thinking to myself, where are these words coming from? Because they're not words that I would say. They were really big girl words, really big girl words. And I'm like, where did that come from? And it was really interesting. And that was one of my earliest memories of getting insight from other places. So when I owned my manufacturing company, which was in my late 20s, I found that I would get a lot of intuitive hits, but my partners were engineers. God seems to send me a lot of engineers. I get engineers as clients all the time. And those are the kinds of teams that I end up working with. And in this business, we built electrical control panels and baggage racks for the railroad industry. And I found that my intuition was very strong in a lot of ways, but they weren't listening to me. So I ended up having to watch my words. I had to turn things around. And sometimes I just withdrew. I didn't want to engage in the conversation because the things that were coming to me that was basically saying, no, you're wrong, try this. I couldn't say that because they're engineers, they're perfectionists. And the one thing engineers tend to be in fear of is not being perfect. And they tend to be pessimistic and judgmental. So I was a woman, and what insight that I had when working with these projects, it was fascinating now that I look back on it. So eventually, after 3 years, my doctor said I wasn't going to reach 30 with the stress levels that I was under. So one day I'm driving down the road. I was really upset because I felt very dismissed. I felt a very lack of respect from my partners. And I heard the words in the car, sell your shares now. And I'm driving down the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and the right in front of me was the off ramp to the rest stop. And I went off and I called my partners and I sold my shares. They were in absolute shock, but I had had enough. I just had enough. And my whole body changed. Everything changed. But my dad was furious because he's like, you're not a quitter. He would say, Ana Teresa, you're not a quitter. And I'm not a quitter. But there's also a time and a place when you know that something is so not right that it's time to step out of it. So I did. And I started another business, and then I got married shortly thereafter, so that business went away. So after I got married, and I married, my husband was a lieutenant commander in the Navy at the time. We moved, and I wanted to do something really exciting, something a little different. So I ended up studying to be an image consultant. Now, before that, I have to tell you that I was told I could never have children. 4 doctors told me I could never have children. Well, my oldest was born 9 months and 2 days after my wedding date. So don't ever tell me no. I've shared the story before. Don't ever tell me no. Everything is possible. So one of the things that we did was when I went to image consulting school, I took my baby with me. So at 3 months, she was the youngest graduate of the school. It was so cool because I started the school very, very shortly after I had her. And I was able to use my intuition because I could see things, I could hear things, I could feel things, I could sense things. It was very, very sharp. And the thing with intuition is the more you use it, the more you practice it, the sharper it gets and the sharper it gets. And my connection with the angel started to get very, very strong. And this very practical person, because I'm very practical and logical, was tapping into places within myself that were really making me happy. Happy. So we ended up transferring down to Mayport, Florida, and I ran my business down there. However, I was way in my head, and that specific tour was all about leadership, but it was leadership from the head up. It was a time where I had to learn how to really be a Navy spouse, and trust me, that was interesting. And then from there, we went to England, and from England back to the States. And during all that time, my connection with the angels got stronger and stronger and stronger. But I had to be very careful about who I could share that information with. So next stop, Chesapeake, Virginia. And I'm in the car with my daughters. My husband was deployed. I was very stressed out. We didn't have GPS in those days. I got lost. I had an appointment I needed to get to. It was a very important appointment. And I was just nuts. So I really, really was. And we were at a stoplight, and talk about out of the mouth of babes. My daughters were sitting in the back seat, and my oldest was about 7 at that time. And she said, "Mom, stop the car and listen to your angels. They always tell you where to go." Duh. I stopped the car. Angels got me exactly where I needed to be. And again, another message, another way to, amplify what I already knew. The next piece was I met the ship in Valparaiso, Chile. As I'm walking with my husband in Valparaiso, Chile, I thought, wow, I never even heard of Valparaiso until my husband said that the ship was going to go there. And I'm walking through the city, and I had known that I had been there before. I knew where to go, what to do, where to turn. It was a very odd experience. And when I got back to Miami to my parents lived there, and to pick up my daughter, the neighbor next door said, "I have just the book for you." And he handed me the book, Many Lives, Many Masters. And Many Lives, Many Masters, that book was truly the beginning of so much for me because it validated every single thing that I knew to be true. Everything that I knew to be true. I absolutely love that book. Then we moved up to Newport, Rhode Island. 2 weeks after we moved here, there was a workshop on, guess what? Many Lives, Many Masters. So I studied past life regression for 2 years. And it was shortly after that I became a Reiki master. And after my first Reiki attunement, that's when my gifts just exploded, and I was listening. Now, however, the people around me, so you're talking the mid 1996, 97, 98 in that time, because I became a master in 98. People thought I was crazy studying Reiki. What is this Reiki thing? What is this weird thing that you're doing? You're just a nut job. Blah blah blah. My parents were horrified. My mother thought I was doing sacrilegious things. It was, but it didn't matter because when I put my hands on her, she felt better. Oh, what is this? Okay. So there was a lot of judgment at that time about intuition. And that's the thing with those of us who are empaths and who are highly intuitive. We have to deal with other people's judgment of us. It's important that we recognize that we need to let them go. However, it is really, really hard, especially when it's family. Who do you want to accept you more than anybody? It's your family, your mom, your dad, your siblings. You want them to accept you and to love you for who you are and to do the work that you're meant to be doing. But when they don't, when they push you away, it can be very, very extraordinarily hurtful, and it can bring you to your knees. And that's pretty much what was happening with me. So I'm not playing the victim card here. I'm just saying what happens with me and what happens with so many empaths that I have worked with. So many empaths. We shared this many times, the exact same story of not wanting the people. We want the people around us to listen to what we have to say, and they don't. So one of the things that I realized was I couldn't depend on them. I had to get away from all of that. And it's taken a long time to do that and to accept me for me. And if they don't, my dad just told me, I don't believe in anything that you do. He just said that to me several months ago. I don't believe in anything that you do. Okay, Dad, that's fine. Next, you know. However, I'll tell you who did believe in what I did. I opened up a leadership center. It was a holistic education leadership center. And what we did was we taught professionals how to communicate well, how to lead well, how to reduce their stress levels. And what was amazing was when government teams came to me asking me to deliver my cutting edge training to their teams so that they could do things even better, sharper, clear. And that's what I did. What was very natural for me, I taught them how to look at these very practical and logical things that were in front of them. And using tools out of my Shiftology toolkit, we learned how to make phenomenal decisions, how to look at things from a 30,000-foot view, which they never really did well before, how to look at things in the moment, and how to take a step back, how to reduce their stress levels on a daily basis, and how to come together as a team, each of them within their own intuitive bubble, and be able to work together and come up with new innovative ideas. It was remarkable how that happened. Another team of 124 managers, they would come to me and I worked with them in teams of 12. And what I taught them was how to acknowledge and accept their intuitive gifts, but their emotional gifts. Remember, we're often told, leave your emotions at the door. And that is such a mistake. You leave your drama at the door, but you bring your emotions with you, because even the most practical, tactical, and logical person is driven by their emotions, their need to be practical, tactical, and logical. I love it when I say it, when I hear people said, or reading I read recently in an editorial letter to the editor, this one person said, I don't use my emotions when I make a decision. I only use the practical and logical. Well, guess what? That's an emotion, okay, whether they like it or not. So the goal of this, of sharing my story with you, and that's just very much on the surface. I'll be sharing more during the week with law of attraction stories and how to help you really tune in, tap in, and turn on so you can use all of your gifts. The purpose for this is to help you see that you're not alone. A lot of us who are highly intuitive go through a lot of the same things. It is absolutely amazing how many things we go through that are similar to what other people are doing. So if you're interested and you want to learn how to tap into your inner CEO to help your business, come on in to take a look at here we go. Activate Your Inner CEO. It's my new program that we start August 28th that will assist you to tap into that beautiful place. You're going to activate your inner CEO, connect with this very amazing, wise side of yourself so that you can grow your business in an extraordinary manner that uses all of your gifts, the practical, tactical, and logical, and the emotional, the energetic, and the spiritual. And another thing that may help you is if you join our new group, Practical Business Mystics on Facebook. Practical Business Mystics. And we're connecting all of these practical, tactical, and logical with the emotional, the energetic, the spiritual, and the intuitive in that group. And they're all entrepreneurs who are joining us in there. So I'm Terry Wilderman. I look forward to sharing more with you next week. And oh, by the way, usually I pull a card. Well, this time I pulled a card for me. And these are the two cards that came up for me about intuition and what I can do to help people in their intuition. And this is what came to me. I need to make a commitment to you, which I have done. Make a commitment. Though this week, a couple things happened that I'm like, God, am I doing the right thing? I am making a commitment. And the next card, I cracked up. Go forward fearlessly. I'm here. I'm talking to you about this stuff. Okay. So tomorrow we'll keep going and we'll be doing this through the end of August, sharing more intuitive tidbits to help you amplify that wise inner guidance system that's inside of you. To your success. See you tomorrow.